and today I would like to talk about Macbeth. So we are starting from Act 1, Scene 4, where right after where we left in our previous session. So you see in the beginning of Macbeth, till the first three scenes, we have seen that Shakespeare was shifting the focus between the worlds of thesis and antithesis. Like line 1, scene 1 was concerning antithesis, where we saw the witches. Scene 2 was concerning the world of thesis, which was the world of Macbeth. Scene 3 once again went to the world of antithesis, but here we found something very interesting. That is, in scene 3, we saw that he came to a synthesis between the worlds of thesis and antithesis. Now, in scene 4, we see that he has come back to the world of thesis, the human world. So, here we have a courtroom, a room in the palace where the king is entering in full flourish. And if you look at Duncan's first speech, the first 10 or 11 lines, you'll find out that this is a reportage. That is, Duncan is reporting what has already taken place. He's inquiring whether the Thane of Cawdor has been hanged or not. That is, whether judgment has been doled upon him or not. So, here we have certain interesting puns because uh, Malcolm suggests that the Thane of Cawdor, while he was dying, he became more of a man than in all his life taken together. How? Because you see, in the Elizabethan age, even death became a subject matter of art. And three terms were very popular in that time in the philosophy of death. One was contemplatio mortis, Contemplatio, contemplatio mortis, Mortis, which was the contemplation of death. The second was ars mortalis, ars mortalis, Mortalis, which meant the art of mortality. And basically, these two, when they were taken together, they kind of created a canon which concerned the philosophy of death itself. And with this, we see that Malcolm is suggesting that in his death, he was such a stoic that his death became a sort of an artistry. And then Duncan replies, there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. So Duncan acknowledges that there is no proper psychoanalytical tool with which we can understand what is going on in somebody's mind by seeing his face. So the face is not the proper window to the soul. But simultaneously, he says something very interesting. He says, he was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. Ironically, Macbeth is also another gentleman, also another Thane of Cawdor, on whom Duncan will build an absolute trust. Now, since we are talking about Macbeth, enters Macbeth, Banquo, Ross, and Angus. And look, for the first time over here, Duncan refers to Macbeth as "O worthiest cousin." So we can already understand that Macbeth was Duncan's cousin, and we have already spoken about the two different rules of becoming an heir, that is, the rule of tanistry and the rule of primogeniture, in earlier lectures. Now he says, "O worthiest cousin, the sin of my ingratitude even now was heavy on me." Now, why does he refer to his due payments as sin of ingratitude? Why does he specifically use this word sin? Because we must understand that Duncan has already planned that Malcolm shall be the Prince of Cumberland. So Duncan feels guilty and he says, the sin of my ingratitude. So I am not becoming grateful to you. The sin of my ingratitude was heavy on me. Thou art so far before the swiftest wing of recompense is slow to overtake thee. So he suggests that Macbeth has done so much that even the most he can do, that is, the most Duncan can do in an act of recompense, would prove to be futile. Would thou hast less deserved that the proportion both of thanks and payment might have been mine. So he suggests that if Macbeth's valor was lesser, if Macbeth's duty was proven to be something lesser, then Duncan would have been able to pay him in proper kind. But since it is more than he can pay, because even he knows that Macbeth deserves the throne, so since he is not paying it, so he says that the sin of ingratitude was heavy on me, that the proportion of both thanks and payment might have been mine. But since you have done so much, so I cannot pay you properly. Only I have left to say, more is thy due than more than all can pay. So no matter how much I pay you, more becomes thy due. And then Macbeth says, the service and loyalty I owe in doing it pays itself. Now, this is a very equivocal or a rather sarcastic remark because Macbeth is already planning on usurping the throne itself. Your Highness's part is to receive our duties. Our duties are to your throne and state, children and servants, which do but what they should by doing everything safe towards your love and honor. Ironically, Macbeth will betray them all. So he is being very sarcastic in his remarks. He is being very calculative in his remarks. He is being very equivocal, and we have a lot of dramatic irony over here. The Duncan suggests, welcome hither, I have begun to plant thee and will labor to make thee full of growing. Once again, we have that plant metaphor, which was there in Act 1, Scene 3 as well, when Banquo asked the witches if you can look into the seeds of time and tell which will grow into a good plant and which will not. So here we have a repetition of that same metaphor. Noble Banquo, that has no less deserved, nor must be known no less to have done so, let me enfold thee and hold thee in my heart. There if I grow, the harvest is your own. So once again, Banquo talks in plant metaphor, in plant imagery. My plenteous joy, wanton in fullness, seeks to hide themselves in drops of sorrow. Now, why is Duncan referring to his joy with reference to sorrow? Because he realizes, he almost understands that his plan of making Malcolm the Prince of Cumberland would not go unpaid. The repercussions will be severe. And I personally do not believe that Duncan, being such an experienced king, cannot understand the fact that his rule has given birth to a lot of political turmoil, as we have seen in Act 1, Scene 2, because Scotland is being attacked from almost every side. So there is a lot of political turmoil from outside as well as political treason from inside. And in such a situation, he needs a powerful heir, but he chooses the weak Malcolm instead of the powerful Macbeth. And Duncan must have been this much prudent, he must have had this much pragmatism to understand that this will have its repercussions. So, what we are getting here is uh, a very interesting, subtle undertone which kind of tells us that uh, this will not go unpaid. Son's kinsman thinks, and you whose places are the nearest know We'll establish our state upon our eldest Malcolm, whom we name hereafter the Prince of Cumberland. Now it was a kind of a rule that whoever becomes the Prince of Cumberland shall also become the next in line to the throne, which honor must not unaccompanied invest in only, but signs of nobleness like stars shall shine on all deservers from hence to inverness and bind us further to you. So after saying that, okay, everybody will be paid in nobleness and in good fortune, he says to Macbeth that welcome me to your house, which is called Inverness. Inverness is the name of Macbeth's castle, and as you can understand by the name, it suggests invertedness. So, inwardness is proportional to invertedness. And imagine the kind of irony, because Macbeth himself is a pretty inverted creature. Whatever he shows outside, the inside is absolutely different. The rest is labor, perhaps to reach the throne, excuse me, which is not used for you. I'll myself be the harbinger and make joyful the hearing of my wife with your approach. So humbly take my leave. Now Macbeth says that whatever I do not do for you becomes labor. So this is a very crooked statement because Macbeth is already planning to get on the throne. Macbeth is already planning to be on the throne, and he suggests that whatever I do not do for that becomes labor for you. That is my original nature. The rest of it is labor. So I'll go home and tell my wife that you are coming. And then he says, look, my worthy Cawdor. So once again, he will be duped by another Thane of Cawdor. Macbeth says, now in an aside, now as I have already told you, that an aside is a dramatic ploy in the Elizabethan ages when a character speaks with other characters present on stage. Now, the convention was that only that character, the speaker that is, can hear what he is saying along with the audience, and the rest of the characters on the stage cannot hear him. So, this was an aside, and it is different from a soliloquy. The soliloquy is where there is nobody else, and an aside is where there is somebody else on the stage. There is somebody sharing the stage space. The Prince of Cumberland, that is a step on which I must fall down, or else overleap, for in my way it lies. So look, Macbeth is already planning that either I must stand down and accept that I am not the Prince of Cumberland, I am not the next in line to the throne, or I must overstep. That is, I must get this person who is the Prince of Cumberland presently out of my way. As simple as that. There are only two choices. There is no third choice for Macbeth. And then look what he says, which is very interesting. He says, stars, hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires. Look, if a person has not already planned that he is going to commit some crime, why would he say in the first place that stars hide your fires? That is, the stars over here kind of refer to the destiny, fate. So, fate, hide your fires, hide your light, and let not any form of light which stands for purity, which stands for brightness, see my deep and dark desires. So, his resolution surfaces, and he is potent and potent as well with his perversion, which is innate to him. The eye wink at the hand, yet let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see. So the eye kind of doesn't look at the hand, it winks at the hand, yet let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see. So, first, the reference is to the eye, which is winking at the hand. Secondly, the reference is to the I, the self, who kind of detaches. That is, Macbeth is detaching himself emotionally, psychologically. Macbeth is detaching himself from the action of murder that he is going to commit. So he says that let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see. So when the murder is done, then let me see that the murder is done. But before that, let me detach myself emotionally and psychologically from the murder so that I do not fumble. And then we get back because Macbeth exits, and Duncan says to Banquo, "True worthy Banquo, he is full so valiant, and in his commendations I am fed. It is a banquet to me." Now, this is kind of ironic because Duncan is murdered right after the banquet, and in another banquet, we'll see Banquo's ghost coming in. So, almost two half dead people are talking to each other about the one same killer, and they're referring to that one same banquet, the theme of the banquet, which will connect their existence later in the text. Let's after him, whose care is gone before to bid us welcome. It is a peerless kinsman. Truly, he is a peerless kinsman in a very ironic sense, and because he will be killing all his peers, he truly will become a peerless kinsman. He will be killing all his kinsmen, and therefore he will become a peerless kinsman. Now we come to Act 1, Scene 5. Now, this is a very interesting scene because it introduces us with a very interesting stage ploy of the Elizabethan age. The stage ploy was of the letter. Now, why is the letter so very important? Because the letter serves multiple purposes for the Elizabethan stage. Number one, here the author utilizes some events. The letters serve the purpose of explaining certain events. Now, these events were not usually, uh, it was not possible to show those events on stage, and therefore it became paramount that these events be recorded, or these events be reported, and the letter serves that purpose. So, this is point number one. Point number two is we get to read this letter from the middle. Okay. So before this, there was something else. So there are a few possibilities. Number one is that Macbeth had already planned the murder of Duncan with Lady Macbeth earlier in some other letter or perhaps personally. Secondly, perhaps in the first part of the letter, Macbeth had planned the murder of Duncan with Lady Macbeth. Because as we read the letter, we'll come to understand that they have an understanding between them where they are talking in each other's terms. They are serving as the alter ego of each other. Thirdly, this letter becomes very interesting because it gives you an understanding of the crooked mind that Macbeth has. Now, many people have interpreted the text in a way where Lady Macbeth is the person who is manipulating Macbeth. But the way I read it, I feel that Macbeth is a more manipulative person than Lady Macbeth could ever be. So I feel that Macbeth was the one who manipulated both Lady Macbeth and everybody else. And I really do not believe that Lady Macbeth was the person who actually manipulated Macbeth. Why? I'll give my own reasons. You can agree or you can disagree. That's your freedom. But you see, that's the beauty of interpreting a text. This text was written in 1606 and we are reading it in the 21st century. So there must have been multiple ways that this text can be read. So do not limit yourself to one judgment. Try to keep an open mind, and if you agree with me, then good. If you do not agree with me, even better. So let's read. So the scene is located in Inverness in Macbeth's castle, and enter Lady Macbeth reading a letter. So she is reading a letter. So by proxy, we are getting what is happening. in the entire text. They met me in the day of success, and I have learned by their perfectest report they have more in them than mortal knowledge. So Macbeth suggests that he is referring to the three witches. So Macbeth tells Lady Macbeth that I met them in the day of success, and I have reason to believe that they have more than mortal knowledge in them. This much we can all agree. When I burned in desire to question them further, they made themselves air into which they vanished. Another reportage. We all know this from Act 1, Scene 3. So, this is basically summarizing. Whilst I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king who all hailed me, Thane of Fodder, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me and referred me to the coming on time with Hail King that shalt be. Now look, why does Macbeth refer to them as weird sisters? Now the word weird is not used in the same way that we use today. It is derived from the Anglo-Saxon word wyrd, weird, which means fate or destiny. So they are the sisters of destiny, they are the sisters of fate. So almost we have a connection with the Greek fate sisters, the three daughters of Zeus, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, who used to kind of dictate human life. And why does Macbeth, where is it written in the text that they are the weird sisters? Why does Macbeth insist on considering them as the sisters of destiny? We do not know this. You see, sometimes we already stamp people, we already label people in a certain way in which we want to read them. And Macbeth wants to read his situation in a specific way, and therefore he is utilizing each and every person as a pawn. This is what I believe. Otherwise, why would he refer to the weird sisters at the first go? And this guy is going to return to his castle right that day. Why is he writing a letter to his wife? Because as you know that the Thane of Potter has been murdered maybe a day or two earlier, and why is he writing to his wife? These are questions which have disturbed me. So I'm posing them before you. You might have an answer, you might not have an answer. I'm just asking the questions that disturb me till date. So he suggests that they saluted me with Hail King that shalt be. This is true, we agree. This have I thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness. So look, Macbeth is slowly implanting in Lady Macbeth the desire to become the queen. So look, the suggestion is such that look, if I become king, then by default, you as my wife shall become the queen. So my dearest partner of greatness. So Macbeth is not putting in her mind the fact that I'll be king. He's putting in her mind the fact that you will be queen. So this is a very subtle psychological manipulation, if you ask me. You can agree, you can disagree. That thou mightst not lose the dues of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee, not what greatness is promised me. So Macbeth never refers to the fact that he will be king and that will be great news for Lady Macbeth. But rather he gives the proposal, he gives the proposition that you will be queen and that will be a great deal for you. So look, he is subtly manipulating her. And it is this subtle manipulation which takes its toll on Lady Macbeth. In Act 3, she will be asking him, why do you keep away from me, sir? Because the function that Lady Macbeth had to play in Macbeth's great scheme of things is done, and therefore Macbeth doesn't need her anymore. Now, I feel that Macbeth is that great manipulator who manipulated even his wife. So, I do not blame Lady Macbeth even for a second. Rather, I believe that Macbeth was the person who actually manipulated this poor soul. And she, in her love for this man, kind of tried to go beyond her extremes to support him in all his dark uh, plans. Lay it to thy heart and farewell. Now, this line is very significant to me because I kind of feel that Macbeth laid it to her heart and then bid her farewell. I I really can't read this line in any other way. This line is not so very simple to me. You can think that I am overreading. That's your prerogative. Now, Lady Macbeth says that the reading here is done. Now, Lady Macbeth starts thinking. She starts pondering and she says out her thoughts loud. Glums thou art, and Cawdor, and shall be what thou art promised. Yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. So look, she has already understood what his plans are. Now, everybody has said that she is Macbeth's alter ego, and therefore she knows everything that Macbeth is going to do. I believe that apart from the fact that she is Macbeth's alter ego, they must have discussed these things. Otherwise, how do they know everything that is going to happen in that very synchronicity? Now, that is very difficult for me to accept, and therefore I believe that they have discussed it sometime during their course of communication. So she says that Glums thou art by Sinel's death, that and Cawdor by the death of the earlier thin of Cawdor, and shall be what thou art promised, that is king. Yet do I fear thy nature. So Lady Macbeth thinks that Macbeth is a soft personality, and she says that yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness. Now, milk of human kindness can be read in two ways. The first is that uh, you are filled with too humane a nature. So, milk of human kindness. That is one way of reading it. So, you are too filled with the milk of human kindness. So, you are too human to do the work. Secondly, kindness. The first kindness that we receive in our life is from our mother, who kindly feeds us. So that is the first act of kindness that we receive in our life. And what does the mother feed us with? Milk. So milk of human kindness. So that way. So she says that you are too full with the humane nature, with kindness, and therefore you cannot take the nearest way, that is the easiest way out, which would be murdering Duncan and usurping the throne. Now, look, neither of them can refer to the word murder properly because both of them are evading it psychologically. Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. So, you have ambition, you know you will be great, but you lack the negativity, you lack the negative impact to achieve it sooner. What thou wouldst highly, thou wouldst holily. Wouldst not play false, and yet would strongly win. So basically, uh, here Lady Macbeth says something very interesting. It kind of summarizes the entire character of Macbeth. If you are given the character of Macbeth, I think this is the best expression that Shakespeare gives in delineating the character of Macbeth. He says, what thou wouldst highly. So whatever you would want highly, whatever you would want mostly, you would want thou holily. So as if you would want it like a holy desire. Wouldst not play false. So you would stick to it, you would not play false, and yet would strongly win. But at the end of the day, whenever you win it, you will win it wrongly. So that's your nature. Thou wouldst have great glance that which cries, thus thou must do if thou have it, and that which rather thou dost fear to do, than wishes should be undone. So here you see, basically the rhetoric is a bit convoluted because Lady Macbeth is thinking so much. She is so very engrossed with the images of murder and Macbeth's nature that she cannot properly formulate her language. She cannot properly formulate her rhetoric, and she is almost playing in a tongue twister to rather evade the word murder because she cannot utter the word. At the end of the day, Lady Macbeth is not so powerful that she can bear the burden of killing an innocent person. Even you will see that she will not be the one to murder Duncan. She will back out at the last moment. So she says that if somebody yells at Macbeth, that great glance, thus you must do. So you must murder Duncan if you want to have the throne. And that which rather thou dost fear to do, then wishes should be undone. So basically, you would still then think that, okay, I'm afraid, so let it be undone. So look, Macbeth has created a kind of image in Lady Macbeth's mind where she thinks that he is such a weakling that he cannot do whatever he wants, whatever he desires. If it involves something, even a bit of wrongdoing in it, Macbeth cannot do it. If he were truly such an idealistic person, then Macbeth would not have been such a war hero. I mean, wars are not won absolutely on uh, somebody's principles. Sometimes you must have to play false, and Macbeth also has played false. Otherwise, he could not have found out about Macdon World, the earlier Thane of Cawdor, and so on and so forth. So he is Bellona's bridegroom, he is brave Macbeth, he is noble Macbeth, and he would be such a nitwit that he would kind of give in. That's not acceptable. So you see, Macbeth has created so many personas in so many people's minds that it is very difficult to pinpoint which is the real Macbeth and which is rather a formulation of Macbeth in our mind. And this leads me to the belief that he is a master manipulator rather than Lady Macbeth being the manipulator in this entire series of events. So before calling her the fourth witch, I would say give the poor soul a little rest and give your mind a little shrug so that you can think of something else. Because I really do not believe that she is the fourth witch. Yeah, she speaks in their tongue, but so does Macbeth. So rather, he is the fourth witch. He is the witch supreme, I would say. So look, then she says, hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear. Now here, I feel that she is the gullible little lamb. Why? Macbeth never asked her to pour her spirits in in his ears. So it is her initiative. And you know, Macbeth has been with this woman. Macbeth is her husband. And as her husband, Macbeth knows that what kind of behavior is expected from him. So don't you think Macbeth already knows that if he just lights the spark in her mind, she will take all the initiatives and responsibilities on her own. And when she messes up, Macbeth will just cover up. At the end of the day, he is her husband and he knows her. He knows how she behaves, how she performs. So he knows what little trickeries can actually instigate her in order to do all the work. And look, I feel that that works over here. I thee hither that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valor of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round, that is the crown, which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have thee crowned withal. Now look, I have a few problems over here. First of all, everyone knows that Macbeth is the Thane of Lumps. That's known fact. Macbeth has defeated the Thane of Cawdor, so according to the rules of that time, Macbeth should become the Thane of Cawdor. There is nothing huge in that. So whatever the witches have said up till now can be justified in this way. Now Macbeth, when somebody is this much powerful, then he would become king eventually. This is a coincidence. Just like whenever you go through the street, you meet certain random astrologers, and they say you will get 1 lakh rupees, you will get 10 lakh rupees, you will get 1 crore rupees. Now who trusts them? But look, Lady Macbeth, she's such a gullible being that she says that which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have the crown withal. So destiny has chosen you to become king, and metaphysical aid, that is supernatural aid, has come to you. Why? Because they could vanish. So they have come to you to help you. So why does she consider them to be destiny? This is my problem. And look, you see, Shakespeare has a very interesting way of poking questions and then leaving them unanswered. So enter a messenger. Just when you started to think all of these things, a messenger enters. So just like Lady Macbeth's chain of thoughts, our own chain of thoughts are broken as well. He won't let us think in one way. So Lady Macbeth says, "What is your tidings?" And messenger says, "The king comes here tonight." And Lady Macbeth says, "Thou art mad to say it." Because in her mind she has already envisioned Macbeth as the king. So she is shocked. You are referring to Macbeth as the king, and Macbeth is coming here. And then, as a manner of damage control, she says, "Is not thy master with him?" So isn't Macbeth with him? And then look, she is kind of covering up for messing up. Who, were it so, would have informed for preparation. So if your master were with him, then he would have informed me for preparation at least. So you see, the cover up doesn't work, and the messenger kind of weirdly says, "So please you, it is true. Our Thane is coming. One of my fellows at the speed of him, who almost dead for breath, had scarcely more than would make up his message." So there was a guy who was faster than them, and he came up and he gave me this message, and he was almost dying out of breath. And Lady Macbeth says, "Give him tending, he brings great news." And almost in all of our minds, we have a very evil laughter in the background. So the messenger exits. The raven himself is horse that crooks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. So now she refers to the raven, which is a kind of a black crow. So the raven himself is horse that crooks the fatal entrance of Duncan. So here the reference is to the messenger, because the messenger has come very hurriedly, so he was choking, and therefore she says that the raven himself is hoarse. That is, his voice was choking, it was hoarse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. So now she has taken upon herself all the responsibility of murdering Duncan. And you see, it is very interesting that whenever in Macbeth something wrong is about to happen, there are references to animals. Now, I have written a paper on this, and that is a very interesting thing that you can read Macbeth in that way as well. But we shall talk about it later. Okay. Come, you spirits. Now she is going on into a soliloquy. So come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty. So now she is invoking certain spirits. who tend to mortal thoughts, that is, deadly thoughts. Unsex me here. Now, it was a common principle back in those days that a woman cannot commit murder because she is of the weaker sex. So she says that unsex me. Take away from my sex the weakness that comes along with it. Unsex me here and fill me so whenever I become an empty vessel, because you are taking all the weakness away from me, so I am becoming an empty vessel. So then fill me from crown to toe top full of direst cruelty. So fill me with cruelty so that I do not have any remorse after conducting the murder of my king, after committing the murder of my king. Make thick my blood, stop the access and passage to remorse, that no compunctions visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. So look, once again, she cannot talk about murder very directly, and she keeps on referring to murder in a very indirect manner. So what does she say? That make my blood thick, because back in the Elizabethan age, it was considered that our emotions flow through our blood. You know about the humor theory, the four humors. So similarly, it was believed that all our emotions flow through our blood. So she says that make my blood so thick that no emotions can flow through them and no natural compunction stop me from my action. And look, she says that shake my fell purpose, which is murdering Duncan, nor keep peace between the effect and it. That is, not keep peace between the intent of murder and the murder itself. So she refers to murder as it. She cannot directly talk about murder because there is a psychological blockade over here. Come to my woman's breasts and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers, wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. So look, she says, come to my woman's breasts. So the breasts with which a woman feeds her child, she calls the murdering ministers. And look, she says, murdering, not murdering. The harsh D sound is softened up. And take my milk for gall. She almost wants to replace the nourishing milk that a woman has in her breasts for her child with gall, with poison. So wherever the murdering spirits are there in nature to commit some form of mischief, that's form some form of murder, cruelty, you come from there to my woman's breast, you unsex me, fill me with cruelty, make my blood thick so that no emotions can flow and nothing stops me in the path of my action. Come, thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes. Now, would you still consider that Macbeth and Lady Macbeth have not spoken? How does she know that how Macbeth is going to murder Duncan? He could have suffocated Duncan with a pillow. How does she know about the knife and the wound? So look, once again, her womanliness, her weakness kind of shifts in because she says, come, thick night, and pall the palling means a kind of tucking in with a blanket, a womanly duty back in those times. So pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell. So she invokes hell. So in a very Faustian way, she invokes hell and all the devils, so that nobody, even the knife which is murdering Duncan, does not see the action, let alone the murderer. Nor heaven peek through the blanket of dark to cry, hold, hold. So even she understands that even the providential order would shudder at the action that she is going to commit. So this can be read in two ways. Number one is that she is giving in to her womanliness no matter how much she wants to unsex her. Secondly, whatever is homely is now becoming unhomely. She uses homely words to convey a very unhomely feeling. Nobody thinks that he will be murdered in his home. So she is taking up the space of the home, that is the Heimlich in the Germanic term, and making it unheimlich, that is unhomely, unwelcome, uncanny. And now enters Macbeth. Great Glums, worthy caudle, greater than both by the all hail hereafter. Now, with this reference, many have referred to her as the fourth witch. It's your choice. Thy letters have transported me beyond this ignorant present, and I feel now the future in the instant. So, right now, we do not know what is going to happen in the future, but with your letters, I feel that the future is here. And now, look, there is a very beautiful zigzag conversation between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. Almost each other is complementing the uh, argument of the other, almost as if Macbeth is complementing Lady Macbeth's argument, Lady Macbeth is complementing Macbeth's argument. So the zigzag motion of the speech is very interesting as it supports the alter ego argument. My dearest love, Duncan comes here tonight, and when goes hence? Tomorrow, as he purposes. Oh, never shall sun that morrow see. So he won't live to see the sun tomorrow. Your face, my pen, is a book where men may read strange matters. So, look, Duncan has suggested that the face is not a proper way to read into somebody's psyche. But Lady Macbeth says that with Macbeth's face, anybody can read into his heart. To beguile the time, look like the time. Bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue. Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. So there is a satanic reference over here. So to dupe the time, be like the time. Be diplomatic. So show that you are very welcoming, but keep your dagger ready. Be like the serpent under the flower. He that's coming must be provided for. This is a very interesting reference. Duncan must be provided for. He must be murdered. And you shall put this night's great business into my dispatch. Now look, Macbeth over here is the shrewd plan. He has already incited her so much that she wants to take charge of the entire happenings of the night. Which shall to all our nights and days to come give solely sovereign sway and masterdom. So she says that if we can perform well tonight, then the rest of our nights will be sovereign nights. We will speak further. So Macbeth kind of dismisses her. Imagine three, four friends have planned to go on a trip. Okay, now say three friends have planned to go on a trip. Two have reached the spot from where you are starting your journey, and they call you up. Where are you? And you say, "Oh, I am considering whether I would go or not." Now they would force you. That's the natural human way of reacting, isn't so? So Macbeth is keeping his faith on Lady Macbeth to be herself. He's saying at the last moment that okay, I'm thinking whether I should go or not. And it is this idea which will work out. So he says, we'll speak further. And Lady Macbeth says, only look up clear, to alter favor ever is to fear, leave all the rest to me. So Lady Macbeth has taken the baton in her hands and she is ready to take charge, and therefore she is not going to listen to Macbeth. And she says, let me do all the work and you just do whatever I have told you. So that's it for this class. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section. Thank you, class.